Just look at these beautiful aerial shots of the earth, the patterns and the textures. And I've had a play around with paintings like this before. Look at these lovely tributaries. Can you see these little brown lines, tributaries of the water? And this is a painting that a photograph that I thought was lovely, and I then did a painting. This was my attempt at creating something similar, and then I just, to make it not quite as abstract, I made a little boat visible in the top right hand corner. So I know that you can get a similar sort of effect, and I've seen people do this before by actually pouring your paint onto your watercolour paper, which is a bit scary, but I'm going to have a go. Now what you do, you don't have to stretch your paper, but you wet it so it's not quite going to the edge, because you don't want it to go to the edge, otherwise your paint that you pour on there is going to all flood off your picture, which would be very, very unmanageable. Now I've just used jam jars here, but actually I have bought some little plastic jugs that have like a spout now, which is far more controllable. But when I was doing this, I just used jam jars. And you can see it's quite scary. And this is Cascade Green by Daniel Smith. I just love what that does. So you pour it on, and when it's not stretched, your paper will cockle, and you'll have like big bubbles and waves in your paper. But that's fine, because what you do then is you just, see, I'm touching it with my brush handle, and you see the paint at the top just starting to move. So you don't tip your board, you just help it along by just pressing down some of these bubbles. Okay. Now, I obviously didn't leave enough of a dry margin because I did have a flood down here, so you probably need to leave a bigger dry area around the edge. I'm just going to join these two together, which might create like a little island. Don't really know what I'm going to do with this yet, but this was one that's dried. I did 3, and they need to dry for a long time, overnight, if not more than one night. But look at the textures here. They're so beautiful, what the paint just does on its own. So this is the one I'm going to actually work on and see what I can make out of it. So this is what it looks like to start with. And I love these tributaries I just mentioned before. And I thought the way I could replicate something like that would by using scrim. Now, if you follow my channel, you'll have seen that I've done a video about how to use scrim before. Can you see the little lines? So this is it, and I believe in America it's called cheesecloth, and a gentleman very kindly told me that and said it comes in different grades. So you need one that's quite an open weave, and you just pull bits off, and there are 2 ways that you can actually use it. You can wet it first. Now the problem with this is that you have to be really quite accurate about where you actually place it, because if you have to pick it up and put it down again, then obviously you're smudging your paint across your picture. For example, that's a bit straight, so I would need to manipulate it, and that's when the trouble starts. So I tend to put it on dry, which means you can place all your pieces first and then very carefully wet them when they're in place, which is no easy task, but I find that is a better way of actually doing it. So I'm just going to put a few more pieces in here. So I'm thinking of this green area being like land, and then the blue area, the sea. Now I do spray it with water, which sort of just settles it down a little bit and stops it from being too flyaway, because if you cough or sneeze, you blow it off your board. And then with whatever colour you want, you just start to paint over the top of the scrim, like that. And when it's finished, just use a plastic wallet, which you can just squish over the top, and then get a book and just squash it down. Now I'm going to work on the other half while that's drying. Now this is a pre-recording, and actually I changed it from this, but I thought I would just keep it in because it shows you the process. So you can actually lift the paint off if you use non-staining colours. So this is what I'm doing here. I'm just, with a damp brush and a tissue, I'm just taking off some of the paint. If I want whiter areas, I'm just adding a little bit of white gouache. You could use white ink, but that's more permanent, but it just gives it a little pop. So if you can imagine like the white, really sort of strong waves hitting a cliff or a beach. Now I realised afterwards that I put these bits of white in the wrong places, but look at the lovely textures that are happening on the paper here. So I'm pleased with that. Now this is where I'm up to. So I've changed where the where the white waves are, and I've added a little boat again. That just stops it being completely abstract when somebody says, "Oh look, that's actually a boat," which means that must be an aerial view, rather than just being an abstract painting of patterns and shapes. Now I haven't finished it, but I thought I would put it on and show you. I am going to have this on my website, so do have a look at that, which is in the descriptions. But if you fancy having a go, why not pour your watercolours, be brave and have fun with it, because I certainly did.